Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amy Gopal, and I am the Director of Development here at Water First, and I will be the moderator of our event today. We are excited. This is our first virtual event, and with a panel of speakers that I hope will give you a greater connection to our work and an understanding of the impact that we can make together. And we have some exciting news to share as well. So we have 5 panelists today, along with a few short videos, and then followed by a Q&A period. Our panelists are John Miller, who many of you know as our Executive Director at Water First, Mike Murray, who represents Wagnung Bemjuang Association of First Nations, Jonas Esquega, a current Water First intern, Eric Fatur, an alumni from our drinking water program, and Polly Bobbywash, our partner at the Anishinaabe Nation. We received questions during your RSVP, so we have those, and at any point during the session, please feel free to post a question. You'll see at the bottom of your screen, there should be an icon that says Q&A. So if you click on that button, you'll get a pop-up window and be able to type in your questions. So please send them along throughout the whole session. We'll try to get to as many as we can. And Before we begin our speakers, I just wanted to take some time to acknowledge the land and community that the office here in Creemore is within. So Water First acknowledges that our office lies within the traditional territory of the Petun Anishinabek, which consists of the Ottawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations. The region in which we live and work has been the site of human activity for approximately 15,000 years, with Indigenous peoples being the sole inhabitants until as recently as 500 years ago. Water First is located on the territory covered by Lake Simcoe Nottawasaga Treaty Number 18 of 1818. Today, this area is still the home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work with the community in this territory. I'd like to start off by introducing John as our first speaker today. I've had the opportunity to work on John's team for a few years now, and I've seen his passion and the intention of our Water First programs to be a true collaboration between partners. John has 15 years experience running a variety of nonprofit, First Nations focused education and training programs here in Canada. He earned his undergraduate degree at the University of Guelph, studying community development and the biophysical environment, and he gained his master's degree at the University of Victoria with a focus on nonprofit and government policy. He's also worked with numerous NGOs overseas in the fields of education and water. John started Water First in 2009 in the back of his home here in Creemore. And fast forward 10 years later, Water First now has 22 staff. We worked with over 50 Indigenous communities across Ontario, Quebec, Labrador, and Manitoba. John, I'd like to hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Amy, and thanks so much for everyone coming today. It's unbelievable. We've had such a positive response to the online event. So positive. In fact, while this was originally conceived as a COVID kind of event, it is certainly tempting to keep doing it in the future. It's terrific to engage with everyone. So thank you so much to our donors, to our project partners, our program participants, Water First volunteers, our cheerleaders, board members and staff. It's just fantastic that we're all able to come together. So for those of you who may be new to the organization, I'm going to give a bit of a history on who we are and what we do. And kind of where we came from, what our original background was, and then I'm going to focus on our drinking water program in particular, and finally an announcement that we're excited to share with everyone. I'm just going to share my screen, and so I want to just begin again by giving you a bit of background on who we are as an organization and where we came from. We actually got started, quite some time ago. We were founded in 2009, and we have somewhat evolved to be addressing water challenges in Indigenous communities in Canada through education, training, and meaningful collaboration. We've partnered with over 50 Indigenous communities now in Ontario, Quebec, Labrador, and Manitoba, and we're in talks in a few other regions of Canada as well on quite a variety of different education and training projects with a focus on water and water science. But for some of you might not be aware that we actually started as Tin Roof Global, and we were working out of Uganda in the early days in 2009, 2010, and 11 in particular. And we were bringing water resources to rural schools in Uganda. We were providing some training on the operations and maintenance of those systems, and we were collaborating quite closely with local NGOs in order to achieve these programs and results. It was during this time that increasingly I'd be asked by intelligent Canadians with interesting perspectives on why are we going all the way to Uganda to find water challenges to address. And to be honest, I got pretty tired of not having a very good answer. And so we started working with First Nations communities, and one of the very first programs that we ran is actually not that far away. But it was an interesting evolution in that there's a couple of conferences, and I'll go back to this slide here. A couple conferences in particular that really shed some light on just the reality of this field, in particular with NGOs in Canada. So as we were working in Uganda, we were taking part in conferences like the one that we're looking at here. This was a WASH conference, Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene. And it was in Toronto. There were hundreds of awesome individuals from all over the country that were there. And we share best practices on the different water projects that are taking place abroad. A few months later, there was a conference in Ottawa, a water conference with a focus on First Nations water challenges here in Canada. And I thought, okay, well, I keep being asked about this. I'm going to go to this conference in Ottawa, and I'm going to chat with all the NGOs working with First Nations communities in Canada, and just try to get a sense of the lay of the land and where we may be able to play a role as an organization. And unfortunately, it was incredibly challenging. I spoke to representatives from coast to coast to coast, Indigenous representatives, community representatives, and I asked, who are you working with, and what kind of work is taking place? And I really wasn't given much to work with. It just appeared as though there wasn't a ton of civil society, Canadian nonprofits and charities engaging with Indigenous communities in this space. So we started actually quite close to home. This project, I'll just tell you a few of the different projects that we do. This project was a baseline water quality study, and it was our first one with the First Nation, the Shawaniga First Nation, just about an hour and 45 minutes up the road. We still do baseline water quality studies today, and a hallmark of all of our programs with young Indigenous adults is to hire and train locally. Another project type that we do is this one is sampling fish for heavy metal contaminants, and particularly mercury. Again, hiring and training locally in order to undertake the project. We do fish habitat restoration also. In this case, it's expanding a spawning shoal. We collaborate with the local Lands and Resources Office at the First Nation in order to achieve the project results. And wherever possible, we like to work with the local schools in the Indigenous communities. In this case, we're planting trees to prevent erosion and sedimentation in the lake that's in the background. In heavy rain events and melting events and so on, a lot of sediment will end up in that water body. And so we try to work with the school and get out on the land as much as possible as well. I also, as I was saying earlier, I'd like to focus on the Water First internship that is our drinking water program. It is definitely, by far the largest program at the organization, and it's had it's increasingly becoming a bigger and bigger part of what we do. I really want to acknowledge the incredible partnerships that led to the creation of this project and this model, this program that we have. The United Chiefs and Councils of Nidhu-Nising, we're such an instrumental group of First Nations on Manitoulin Island in the creation and design of the program and the pilot. So too was Wikwemikong unceded territory, and the Anishinaabe Nation as well, which represents 39 First Nations in Ontario, was another critical partner. We accomplished some amazing things together. I'll tell you about that in a second. And we're currently working with 11 First Nations that are affiliated with the Bomose Tribal Council up in northwestern Ontario. And this is the group of interns that we're currently working with in a number of water treatment plants and different trainings. Some of the keys of what takes place in the internship and why we do it is that, fundamentally we are looking to support young Indigenous adults to enter the field of water treatment and environmental water sampling as well. At the end of the day, unfortunately, there are just far too many First Nation communities who are in need of more young Indigenous adults to enter this field. I think there's it's human nature to some extent to focus on the infrastructure. That the technology is broken. If we fix the technology, therefore communities will have clean drinking water. And while that's necessary, it's not sufficient. It's not the only thing. It's people who run the infrastructure and run it and maintain it and keep it going, and who ultimately are responsible for delivering clean water to the communities. There are far too many communities with only one operator. That operator often is unable to leave the community for more than 24 hours. There are communities with succession challenges whose current operators may be in a position to retire soon, but there's no one sort of coming up to take that place. There's some communities with no operator, and they're relying on outside organizations to run the treatment plant on their behalf. Many First Nations don't have a certified operator, and instead they have a local hero who stepped up and said, "Okay, I'll give a shot at running the plant," and they're doing the best they can with the resources they have. So that's the nature of the internship program, is really trying to support young Indigenous adults to enter this really critical field. The program offers skills training, certifications, recognized, provincially recognized certifications for work in a water treatment plant. Awesome hands-on employment experiences actually working out of the water plant. There's professional networks where we bring the interns in non-COVID times to really awesome focused industry conferences with an emphasis on First Nations water treatment. And again, this sort of dual environmental and drinking water focus of the program. The way that the program actually works is that the interns are working out of their home communities in their home community's water treatment plant much of the time. And then we come together and we convene for focused intensive trainings that typically last about a week long. And then the interns return to their home communities, work out of the water treatment plant with new knowledge, come together for a focused training, and it does that over the course of 15 months. Some of the benefits is each of those interns, it's a full-time paid internship. So we've worked with groups between 10 and 20 interns. So there are those paid full-time jobs in the communities. There's a full-time local coordinator as well employed through the program. These recognized certifications, as I was mentioning, the operator in training and water quality analysts. And ultimately it's the enhanced sustainability of the water systems and strengthened communities through the amazing hard work of the interns who are working so hard and studying and gaining their certifications and becoming assets to their community's clean water. On Manitoulin Island, it was fantastic to see what we accomplished in partnership with the 7 First Nations there, in that there were 10 graduates of the program. There were 7 operator and training certifications, 8 water quality analyst certifications. Everyone got a provincially recognized certification. I won't go through all the points here. A really amazing point was that around 40% of the graduates were women in that program, which was awesome. And all of the interns had about 1,800 hours of water treatment plant experience. Within a few weeks of graduating, 9 out of 10 were employed in the drinking water field, environmental water, or were pursuing further studies. And it's really the supply-demand dynamics here that we're well aware of, and so too our communities, that there is a need for more young Indigenous adults with these skill sets, and so they're snapped up. And so the vast majority actually had the work lined up prior to even graduating from the program. So it's really it's really amazing to see those results right out of the gates. With the Bomose internship, we're about 2/3 the way through. Again, I won't go through all the stats here, but I'll pick out some of the key ones. There's 15 interns currently in the program, and 11 out of 15 of those interns have already achieved their operator in training certification through they passed their exams actually just recently. We're really thrilled to bits to see that. I was speaking with Amy Cummigan, the executive director at Bomose recently, and she shared with the local chiefs at a recent AGM meeting these preliminary results, and we're thrilled to bits to hear the news. We're also really happy to be able to report that our COVID-19 adaptations which really had to take place overnight, were successful. And those results of the certification exams are really strong evidence of that. We hope to complete the program at the end of April 2021. Also, upon graduation, all of the interns, they're invited to become members of the alumni group, and the vast majority do. We do ongoing professional development. There's some funding available for future professional development costs and interview prep and so on. So it's been it's often a long-term or longer-term relationship with some of the trainees. Where we're headed with this is exciting. You know, through word of mouth alone, we don't really advertise that we're looking to partner with more First Nations on this or with this program. But there are still, just through word of mouth, there's a number of tribal councils who are interested in hosting it, and we certainly hope to be able to support them. There have been some challenges, though, trying to support additional First Nations communities and tribal councils with government funding alone. With the Bomosé project, sadly, we saw the project sit on the shelf, or the program sit on the shelf for 18 months, which was really tricky, given that we had a willing host tribal council and a number of communities. We had the staffing, we had a successful pilot, we were ready to go. It's such an important challenge that needs to be addressed, but we weren't able to go just yet. Our donors this time, however, and our partners have made a really incredible thing possible, and that is when the Bomosé internship ends, the very next day we hope to get started working with, and we will announce here that it's Water First and the Wabnung Bemjuang Association of First Nations. There's 6 First Nations together with Wabnung and the Anishinaabe Nation that we're partnering to launch our next drinking water internship. And the group of communities is in the northeastern region of Georgian Bay, and kind of a triangle between Sudbury, Parry Sound, and North Bay. And we're very thrilled to announce that the donors and our partners have very much made this happen. The interns have made this happen as they keep working so hard to achieve their successes, and they inspire us all to keep going. So I'm very proud to announce that, and we're thrilled to bits to be working and moving forward in partnership with those different Indigenous organizations. So that's it for me for now, and I'll hand it back to Amy.
It's a good program. Teach you a lot about what a community needs for clean water.
Being a single parent and raising a child is financially difficult, and I probably wouldn't have completed the internship successfully if it wasn't for that support from Water First.
The internship is designed to create long-term skilled people in the communities who can maintain clean drinking water supply for the future.
I just want to make sure it's healthy. It's my community. It's where I come from. I take pride in what I do. Getting into this internship, to be honest, I didn't know what I was signing up for. I came in here for a job, and I ended here with a career. My family's set for this. Like, having this for my son and I is the best thing.
As a largely non-Indigenous organization, we look to our First Nations Advisory Council for strategic advice on how to effectively collaborate with partners and design and deliver our programs in the community.
First Nations Advisory Council is a space where we come as practitioners and ask a lot of questions about how do we tackle X, Y, and Z in ways that make sense to the participating communities.
I support them because of the work that they do. I've seen the relationships that they've established with the communities, and they're very respectful relationships, and they're reciprocal relationships.
Working with our partners, we offer a 15-month paid internship for young Indigenous adults who can start a career in water operations. Currently, 8 out of the 10 graduates from our last internship are still working in drinking water plants. 2 of the other graduates are now returning to school and pursuing additional studies in environmental science. After graduating from the drinking water internship, our interns are welcomed into the Alumni Network. This is an opportunity for our alumni to continue building professional and career relationships and receive additional training put on by both Water First and our partners.
Knowing that we're no longer a Mumbo water bars anymore, and we don't have to drink out of bottles, you know, it's gonna be huge for us.
The internship is awesome. Commit to it and everything will fall into place.
We wouldn't be here today as an organization, and particularly with the internship program, if we didn't have the support of those donors.
Well, again, I'm pleased to introduce Mike Murray as our next speaker today. He's the president of Diverse Technical Services and works mainly with First Nations communities and specializes in water and wastewater treatment systems. With over 30 years experience working with First Nations in Ontario, Mike provides technical service advice, professional project management, designs, and studies for communities. And currently, Mike is the project coordinator for the Wabnung Bemjwang Association of First Nations for their water, wastewater treatment hub system. So he provides extra support, and he works with the operators from 8 treatment systems and 10 pump houses. So I'd like to welcome Mike to our panel. Are you there, Mike? There we go.
Hello, welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much for having us. And on behalf of the Wabanam Benjwang Association of First Nations, I'd like to thank Water First for this opportunity. I know this is different than what's previously done due to the pandemic, and glad that this process has moved forward. But I'd like to kind of just go back to the beginning when John approached one of the staff of the Wabanam Benjwang Association of First Nations about this opportunity and presented some of the background things that we did. Myself and the executive director, Irvin George, and other people thought it would tie in very nicely, because our association has a lot of challenges, as most First Nation tribal councils, ours is an association, does with water quality. Not necessarily water quality as much as with the operators themselves. All of the plants are working, they're all meeting more or less current regulations. If they're not there, we've got plans to bring them up to those regulations. But the operation is key to it. So I thought I'd provide you with a little bit of background on the communities John kind of mentioned. They go the triangle of Sudbury to Parry Sound to North Bay. So there's 6 First Nations in alphabetical order. Doki's First Nation essentially is very rural. It's on the west edge of Lake Nipissing and the headwaters of the French River. It's off a 25-kilometer, essentially gravel road. It's quite rural. Doesn't even, cell reception is not there, but it's a beautiful location, and the community is, it's a very close-knit community. Next one's Henvey Inlet, which is, it has 2 reserves as part of Henvey Inlet. One is the French River Reserve, which most of the facilities are, and there's also the Henvey Inlet Reserve, and they're bound by Highway 69. Henvey Inlet goes right over to Georgian Bay, and the French River Reserve actually touches to the Pickerel River, which is part of the French River system. And there's Magnetawan First Nation, I'm doing these in alphabetical order, is just south of there. It's about 100 kilometers south of Parry Sound, south of Sudbury, and probably 30 kilometers north of Parry Sound. And it is along the Magnetawan River, and goes right out to Georgian Bay as well. The Nipissing First Nation is along the whole north shore of Lake Nipissing, about 40 kilometers long, goes from Sturgeon Falls essentially right over to North Bay. The Wanapitei First Nation is the smallest of the communities. It is essentially in the way, the northwest shore of the Lake Wanapitei. And they're the only community that does not currently have a water treatment plant. They're doing a wastewater feasibility study currently to see whether one's deemed necessary or not for the community. They're currently on wells and septic systems, but with their growth, that's why they're looking at that option. Then there's Wasauksing First Nation, which is on an island just outside of Parry Sound, and it's essentially in Georgian Bay. So those are the communities. They have 6, 5 of the communities have water treatment plants. A couple of them have more than one. Henvey Inlet has 2. They have a water treatment plant and a pump house. Lake Nipissing First Nation actually has a full water treatment plant, and they've got 10 other pump houses, which all have water treatment facilities within them. And the other the other communities just have a single water treatment plant. There's 10 operators to run these plants, and 4 of the operators are females, and 2 of those are overall responsible operators. All of the treatment plants have overall responsible operators that are certified under the provincial requirements to the level and classification of their plant. So they essentially oversee their own systems. And there's also wastewater plants in wastewater systems in 3 other communities. Doki's has a facultative lagoon. Magnetawan has a rotating biological contactor system, and Nipissing has an extended aeration system as well. So the reason I'm kind of mentioning is in 2 of those cases, 2 of the cases, the water treatment plant operator also runs the wastewater facility. And Nipissing, their ORO actually assists, is the backup for the wastewater system. So these are very combined very closely. And when I think of water treatment operators, I think of both water and wastewater, because they can kind of move amongst one another fairly easily, because treatment of the water, one obviously with waste is much different to treat, not because of it is human waste, but the processes are generally very similar. So I work with a hub, water and wastewater hub system for the association, and we work with all the operators and try to bring them all closer together so they're working together. And with this, there's been a lot of challenges, and this program ties in very well with it because there's 3 of the communities who only have 1 operator. And there's a variety of reasons for that. But it's very challenging for 1 operator to run a community system because there's no backup. They're on call 24/7, no matter what happens, even though systems do at sometimes aren't, running because they've got enough storage. There's always pumps and other things that are running and systems, even though if the treatment's not going, and there's vacation and sickness and that sort of stuff. So it's been very, very challenging. And through the pandemic, we've worked hard to try to find backups for it if something happened to one of the operators or something. Because of this, and the operating group of the association are familiar with each other's plants, are becoming more so, and they're providing backup. So there's definitely a need for this, and some of these systems have had more than 1 operators, but they've left for other opportunities in other places, gone back to school. Aqua's picked them up, and different situations like that, which cause challenges. And finding an operator is very challenging for this hub system. To help support the operators, we've tried to hire a level 2 operator, minimum level 2 operator, and it took us a year to find an operator. We went through 4 processes of putting out notices and ads, trying to get operators, and even towards the last one we finally did, we actually secured a level 3 operator, and they've been in the position for a month, and they've been helping the operators greatly because they now have help to do other things. Someone's experienced and skilled to help them out, not to oversee their system, but just to help out. But we were actually looking to reduce the qualifications of what we needed in order to get someone to help because it takes so long to find them. So these are challenges that the communities have. So having a slate of operators is very, very crucial, and there's opportunities for them. And we had meetings with the supervisors of the operators on Tuesday, and we're mentioning this program, and one of the operators from the UCCM program indicated that they had worked in their community after they'd left this program in environmental aspects for about a year, and then she left to pursue other avenues. But these operators and staff that are bringing forward, they're bringing educated, dedicated people to the First Nations, that even if they don't end up being water treatment plant operators, they're going to be key to the communities because of their understanding of what's going on environmentally and with the water system. So that's about all I'd like to sort of say at the moment. I thought that instead of carry on with other things, I'd kind of return it so we can get back and continue with the stuff, and I can always answer questions later if you have any. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Back to you, Amy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate getting to learn and hear more about the communities that we'll be partnering with soon. John often speaks about just, that thought of, okay, what's the next group? Who are the interns that are going to be part of this program? And so now we have a better understanding of some of the needs in the communities and the communities that we will be partnering with. So thank you. Now I wanted to introduce one of our current interns. So Jonas Esquega is a young father from Wagoon Lake, Ojibwe Nation. He's a current intern with our drinking water program in partnership with Bamosi Tribal Council. So he started back in February. And in his short time with us, he's already completed both the entry-level course as well as the operator in training certification. And one of his instructors was sharing with me that Jonas is a musician, and he's been introducing his young daughter to music and recently bought her a toy drum and a piano set. You'll hear directly from Jonas, but when he graduates from the program, he really wants to continue his work to protect water and create clean drinking water sources in his community. So I'd like to welcome Jonas to our discussion today.
Clean water is the basis of all life. It provides hydration to most, if not all, life on Earth. And to keep our water clean, we must keep the source water clean. Keeping the source water clean will help keep the natural environment healthy, which in turn provides us with better water to work with. All in all, clean water to me means life and health. I'm very glad for this opportunity that was given to me, which helps provide clean water to this community that I'm part of.
Hi, thanks for the introduction, Amy. But one quick thing, I started this program back in July, actually, and yeah, I did learn quite a bit from the program so far, but I'll get to that in a bit. I just like to introduce myself here. I'm Jonas from Woblin Lake, Ojibwe Nation, and as she said, I am a new father, and it's quite fun. Me and my baby are both little musicians. We like to hang out, listen to music, play music, and she's catching on quite good. I like it. It's fun. And that's my side hobby when I'm not really focused on water. And for me, water is very important, as I mentioned in the video. But yeah, I found out about this program through like job postings on Reserve and such, and like bulletins. I thought about it quite a bit, but then one day a counselor came knocking on the door and asked me if I want to be part of it. And I did take the opportunity, and I'm very glad I did, because it's kind of up my alley. I was always into environment stuff. Like had this job back in high school is with the MNR. We did like a bunch of environment stuff with aging fish with the ear bones. Outdoor stuff is like checking the quality of water sources, and even coverts and such. We're taking samples and such outdoors. And I also went tree planting the next summer, so I have like lots of experience with environmental stuff. And taking on water was quite a new challenge, because you learn quite a lot, and all the issues that come with clean drinking water. And then you become very concerned about it eventually. Like the more you learn, the more you're concerned about it. And those concerns just came to light today, actually, because we were just handed out a boil water advisory, which we hardly get here, but it kind of like puts it into view on what other communities have to put up with, like constant boil water advisories, no clean drinking water and such. And like the boil water advisory we have here is only because the water plant operator, the pump failed, so we had to get a new one, and he switched it out. And he's just doing this for precautionary measures, but like I said, it kind of gives you a glimpse on what other communities have to deal with. And yeah, like it was mentioned earlier, I think by John, like we do work with what we got, but it's very challenging sometimes, like outdated equipment. Like we're supposed to have backup pumps, but we got one pump and that failed. Now we got a boil water advisory, but we're working with it. And that's where this training comes into play. Like we're learning what to do when this stuff happens, and how to apply the knowledge we're learning throughout this whole program. But yeah, that's another big thing there, was like clean water for me. I kind of get emotional about having clean water, because it's a pain in the ass sometimes. Sorry, excuse my language, but like you see dirty water and you think, how are we supposed to drink that? And you see the process of how it goes from dirty water to clean water, and it's actually really amazing, and I'm very glad to be part of it. And like I'm learning new stuff every day about not only water, but everything else, like life that's affected by water. Not only human life, plant life, micro life, all kinds of life, really. And that's really my main concerns, is protecting that life and protecting the water, and they go hand in hand. And I think that's it. I can pass it on back.
Thank you so much, Jonas. I appreciate that you're willing to share your stories and your view on clean water and what's happening in your community as well. Now I'd like to actually hand it over to an alumni from our program. So Eric Fatur from Shagwinda First Nation was part of the Manitoulin internship. And in fact, he was actually voted valedictorian by his class, by his peers. He's an activist at heart and has been involved with water and environmental issues since high school. In the past, he's shared that a lot of the milestones that he's reached in his life have really been related to water. And as a teenager, he worked with on Shagwinda's Green Plan Project, a program that engages youth in environmental actions like shoreline cleanups. And he was also working with community-based drinking water monitoring for his community. During the internship, Eric really enjoyed learning about the different water systems within the 6 plants on Manitoulin, as well as water quality testing. And now as a graduate, Eric is working as a level 1 operator for the region of Peel water distribution team. Eric is passionate about food. If you ever get together with him, he'll talk to you about his love for eating good, healthy foods. And he splits his time between the water plant and volunteering at the Toronto Vegetarian Food Bank. It's great to have you here with us today, Eric. I'd like to pass it over to you.
Many First Nations have developed a distrust in their water supply. In my own community of Shagwinda First Nation, that distrust spans many generations. Since graduating the Water First internship, I've continued to pursue a career as a water operator. I was lucky enough to be offered a 1-year contract with our First Nation to retain my level 1 license. I'm currently working with the Region of Peel water distribution team out in Caledon. Some of the tasks which we are responsible for include commissioning new water mains, repairing existing water mains, collecting samples when necessary, maintaining any water assets which are in Caledon, as well as locating those assets when construction work is on the go. In 2005, we had a Class 2 water plant commissioned, with our source being surface water. We added 2 new disinfection processes, which include UV and ozone. Restoring trust in the water supply for our First Nation peoples and ensuring they have clean drinking water is one of the main reasons why I became a water operator.
Hello, everyone. Eric Fatur here. I'd like to thank Amy for the incredible introduction. Also like to thank all of you for sparing some time out of your day to attend this awesome virtual conference. So as Amy said, I was working in my home community after the internship. I was lucky enough to be offered an opportunity to work with my community after that. It was really important that I obtained my license. Also, another part of which wasn't mentioned, but I would like to mention it, is in my community, there are some houses that aren't serviced from the distribution system. So these houses have cisterns, so we have a water delivery truck, and we have to deliver water to them 3 times a week. So it was important that I acquired my DZ driver's license in order to operate the water truck. Also during this time, I supported another First Nation in our tribal council. By covering for their one and only operator, he was off with an injury, so I had to go there and cover for him while he was off with his injury. And this was important because his whole community, Sojiba First Nation on Manitoulin, unlike our community, their entire community was they had no distribution system in place. So it was really critical for me to go and cover for this operator, because unlike our community, they needed water delivered every single day, and without it, like, they would go without water. So I did that as well, and while I was working for my community in 2019. And yeah, before joining Water First, I was living in the city of Greater Sudbury for a while. I was going through a really rough time in my life. Had a really negative outlook on life and was heavily depressed and was unemployed. I had a nest egg saved up, and that quickly ran out, and I was going into debt, and things weren't really looking up for me. Some days it was really rough for me to continue, just to keep going. And in the spring of 2017, when when the pilot project for the first internship began, I heard about this great opportunity back home. Luckily, my dad is also a water operator, so he scoped out this amazing opportunity and he told me about it. And I was like, what else? What else can I do, really? And so, but it was an amazing opportunity, and I was really thrilled to participate in it because I worked in my community before in other positions, being stationed in the water plant, but none of them offered provincial level certifications. Also, there was tons of relevant training that we would participate in as well. So the opportunity to work in my community with Water First was very promising, and for the fact that it was a paid internship, which was a major support for myself, because I mean, it's not about the money, but it was a really great aspect of working in the community. Also, I just miss being back home, so I got to go back home, and it was great to be working in my community of Shagwin First Nation. And one of the best parts of working in the internship was the fact that it brought together the entire tribal council, and that was a major highlight for me. Now I can say I have friends in each community in my tribal council, which I couldn't say before the internship, and that's a really big highlight for me. And actually, I the professional friendship, relationships, and just really good friendships in general. I fostered during the internship, and the operator who I was covering for in Gbosing First Nation, he's actually turned to be one of my best friends now. But yeah, it was fun having all the training sessions that Water First provided. There, the food is great, as Amy said. I'm really passionate about food sovereignty. I'm also passionate about water sovereignty. Two of the biggest things, which are big parts of my life. But yeah, we had many fun conferences, and we, as a group, we went to those conferences, and it was a fun time. But it was also lots of learning and lots of challenges. And we attended a water ceremony. It was actually in March of 2018. So it was World Water Day, which is March 22nd. And so we had the interns come out to water ceremony out in Wacomico. And so we went there for the day. And one of the biggest challenges which we faced, and it was difficult dealing with it. In March, we were faced with the news of we might not receive additional funding for the program. So we weren't sure if we were going to be able to continue after March. So sure enough, anyways, so we went to this ceremony on World Water Day, and part of the ceremony for a water ceremony is we have, so the women got up to pay for water because women are water keepers in our culture. So they had all the women interns. We actually had a huge copper pot of water, and there was water from all the First Nations from the tribal council was in this water. And after shortly after So part of it is we have the prayer, we have a song, and after that, within like not even an hour, like we received an email that we're gonna have additional funding to complete the program, and which is amazing news. Like we were so ecstatic once we found out, and like we were excited to be able to finish the program because it's really important that the intern, like all these youth, including myself, become certified in the water sciences and environmental science because there's a lot of there's not much representation out there for Indigenous youth. So for the fact that we were able to continue was very incredible. Yeah, and like Amy said, like I experienced a lot of milestones, and it was much thanks to the Water First internship. One of them being like I was lucky enough to like go on my like first like I never been on an airplane before, so I was fortunate enough to like go on this trip. So it was a conference in Winnipeg. It was held during the start of our internship, and so we were trying to figure out who would go. Me and one of the interns from the Comic-Con were the two that were chosen. So we we got to go to this conference. It was for Indigenous knowledge keepers and scientists. It was a gathering for them to come down and sit like at a round table to discuss like issues and how to bridge the gap between both worlds, because there's a lot of overlapping values which people don't realize, like, and when we work together, there's so much can be accomplished when that gap isn't there anymore. And which is a major highlight for me. Also, like one of the speakers at this conference was David Suzuki himself. So I was lucky enough to meet David Suzuki during the 3-day conference that we were there. So that's really a big highlight for me. But yeah, it was the internship was a fun experience, lots of learning and lots of fun times, but it did come with its struggles, being the pilot project, but we overcame all the challenges we faced, and it led me to where I am today and all the other graduates to where they are today. And yeah, so that's my internship experience. And like right now I'm working with the Region of Peel out in Caledon. So I'm at the distribution team. They have two teams. One is the treatment team and one is the distribution team. So yeah, I'm part of an excellent team. Like they show me a lot. Like I'm still learning. Like I just learned some new things last week. Like I didn't know, like regarding pressure and yeah, some of the things we're responsible for, like mainly just making sure the integrity of the distribution is in place, like in making sure it runs smoothly. And yeah, had some pretty good experiences so far working with out in Caledon as a distribution operator. And it's oh, did I run out of time?
Yeah. Am I up on the screen now, Eric?
Oh yeah. Oh,
okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you, Eric. It's really interesting to hear the highlights of the program, what stuck out for you, the power of the water ceremony and everything that went with that, what inspired you to join the program, and everything you've kind of taken on since afterwards. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, perfect. Now I'd like to introduce Polly. She's been such a strong and supportive partner for Water First that I'm really pleased to invite her as our last speaker today. Over the years, she's consistently provided sound advice and guidance, both on the substance of our programming, but also the future direction. She's helped us to anticipate challenges and to handle the curveballs when they do come our way. Polly Bobby-Wash is the Director of Labour Market Development at the Anishinaabe Nation, which has 39 member First Nations across Ontario. Polly supports a First Nations-led approach to employment and skills development. And she partnered with Water First on the pilot internship on Manitoulin Island with 7 First Nations communities, and now again with the Wabnung internship launching next year. So thank you so much, Polly.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Amy. Much appreciated, and miigwech for this opportunity to share my experiences with Water First training. Thank you very much, Jonas and Eric, for your stories of personal impact and benefit. Certainly, these are the stories that hit my heart the hardest, and you make me so proud. As Director of Labor Market Development for the Anishinaabe Nation, it is my pleasure to represent the Anishinaabe Nation at this event. I bring well wishes to you from our Grand Council Chief Glenn Hare, as well as each of our 39 member First Nations across Ontario. I would firstly like to congratulate Water First for an incredible year of successes. In collaboration with its First Nation partnerships, Water First has developed a tried and true solution for addressing critical water challenges. The Water First intervention and Indigenous community, through the Water First intervention, Indigenous community members become certified water treatment technicians and water quality analysts. This means that they can not only treat the water, but also analyze it to see whether or not it is in fact healthy for our communities. I was first introduced to Water First through my involvement with the Manitoulin Water Treatment Technician internship. It was my pleasure to work in collaboration with the United Chiefs and Council and Water First in delivering this pilot water technician training program to interested community members. Important components of this project included a hands-on training and certification, but also cultural supports and wraparound services for participants, from cultural guidance as it's related to the land, to accommodation for childcare needs and transportation in rural Ontario. One of the things that we assume is Manitoulin is quite a small community and quite a small area, but in fact, in mass, it takes probably a good 2 to 3 hours to go from one end to the other. So it is quite a vast area of land. The Anishinaabe Nation was able to coordinate personal supports to the trainees of this project, such as living allowance, transportation, some of the cultural components, and any extra equipment that they might require. We're happy to report that 8 individuals who graduated from last year from the Manitoulin Water First project are currently working and serving their communities locally after completing the Water First program. I am so proud of these individuals. There is a commitment from First Nation young people to make a difference, and often they want to work close to home, where they can be close to family and support their children as they need. Nobody understands the evolving challenges and needs of First Nations more than the people who live there. Many First Nations in Canada have identified the need for local personnel to support solving water issues independently and for the long run. Yet every community is different. Infrastructure is different. Labor markets, including available labor is different, and physical environments and challenges are different. What they do have in common is a need for safe, reliable drinking water. I'm reminded of this every morning when I step into the shower and my water is clean. Every day when I take a drink out of the tap and my water is clean. I have no idea what it must be like to live in these communities where I cannot mix my baby formula with the water that's coming out of the tap. Although I have not been directly involved with the Bemose Water First project, I have watched from afar as the project meets new challenges related to remote locations and COVID-19 measures. Congratulations to the participants and the project directors of this project for making the challenges, meeting these challenges as they occur. So Water First next will be launching the next drinking water internship from the Georgian Bay region to provide critical services and ensure clean drinking water to First Nation communities, not only for today, but for the next generation. We are excited at the Anishinaabe Nation to assist with the coordination of participant supports with Water First and the Wabanung Bimajawong Tribal Council for this next project. It has been exciting to partner with Water First on the certification of local First Nation individuals to provide stable water source for many generations to come. I am proud to be involved with Water First and local tribal councils in the delivery of this important intervention, and I am so proud of the participants. This is why I do the work that I do, is to help communities and participants adjust to the labor market, access wealth, and provide a good, stable home and income to their families. So miigwech Water First, and miigwech to every participant. Thank you.
Thank you, Polly. I agree. It's so amazing to see the commitment from the young adults that are part of our program, like Eric, like Jonas, and the reminder of clean water and the need for all communities to be able to access that. And of course, your passionate support, as always, means so much to us, especially with the next internship as well. So we've come to the Q&A section of our event. After hearing some of the speakers, I can see that some of the questions have already been addressed, but we still have some new ones coming in, and I will encourage you all to please continue to send in your questions. Again, a reminder, there should be a button at the bottom of your screen that says Q&A, and when you click on it, you'll get a pop-up screen and can submit your question that way. So now, if we can have all of our panelists on the screen, and then we can have a bit of a discussion. I'm going to just change my view so there, I can actually see everyone. Okay, great. To get us started, John, I was hoping that you could just touch, we've had a few questions around COVID and just what the implications have been to the programming this past year. Can you just briefly touch on that?
Sure thing. Of course, you know, COVID was presented as a whole with really significant challenges, and this program and the Bomossi partnership is no exception. We, you know, to be honest, we were considering between the leadership at Bomossi and the leadership here at Water First, whether or not we could continue with the program. We just didn't know what on earth was going to take place and what was around the next corner. And basically what we decided is we're going to do absolutely everything we can to keep the program on the rails and moving forward. We basically pivoted to do everything that we normally do in person in an online environment. That decision then of course presented some challenges, given that unfortunately in far too many First Nations communities, the cell reception is lousy, the internet isn't as great as it can be further to the south and so on. So we had to do what we could to kind of beef up communications technology wherever possible, where there were good cell signals, but not the best internet. We were shipping cell phones to participants, making sure everyone's laptops were up to speed, and shipping textbooks and things like that, and really just getting resources to the interns to try and level the playing field for all the different participants. So that was really it in a nutshell. Of course, there's much more to that, but having to become kind of online education experts overnight was a challenge. But we're so happy that you know, seeing the results that have been coming in as a result, and how hard in particular the interns worked, and they kept their heads down to keep moving forward. Really, it's hats off to the interns every time for their hard work and determination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. Actually, it kind of leads me to you, Polly. Some of the questions we've been asked, and I don't want to pose it to John. I actually would like to hear your viewpoint is on what do you feel, how do we measure success of this program?
How do you measure success?
Yeah, of our program from your perspective.
Yes, success can be measured in a number of ways. I mean, the first and foremost, the way we measure success is do people complete the training? Do they go on to work in the field? And in fact, do they go on to work, period? Sometimes we train people in areas that they may not be that suitable in. They may find that they aren't that suitable, but they still gain employability skills. They still gain the confidence to go on and meet their own goals. But certainly the recruitment that has gone on for these projects have recruited people who are particularly interested in the environment. When we look at one of the projects that started in the winter, we're asking people to go out on the land and do water quality testing in the middle of winter. You can be sure that those people that are committed to the environment are the ones that are going to be applying. Because those of us who prefer a warm place to sit will not be out there in the middle of the winter. So kudos to Eric. So what was the question? Recruitment?
No, it was that. It was on just around success and around the outcomes of a program.
We are very, very proud of the recruitment and the success from these projects. The majority of graduates or the majority of participants have graduated. That is extremely good, particularly in this environment. We're also having many, many employers approach us. Just recently, we've had the Coast Guard and the Canada Steamship Lines approaching us. These are the same types of individuals who like to be out on the land, who like to be out in the weather, who may be also interested in those employers. But these ones have chosen the environment. They're committed to their communities, and they're committed to water. So miigwech to each and every one of them.
Yeah, no, thank you. Kind of moving more to a technical end, Mike, we've had a few questions around infrastructure and around how the operations and the maintenance of systems work, and who do you work with when you need support on infrastructure?
Infrastructure is a big aspect of this, and one of the challenges that the communities are having when they have a lack of operators is that they actually don't have the staff to do the maintenance. They're doing the operations because they want to make sure that the water quality is sufficient going out, but a lot of the operations, the maintenance is not always done. So that becomes, and then things start breaking down. So then you have to have things fixed opposed to regular maintenance. That's one of the concerns with not having enough operators, and that's in the communities. And in some of the plants, one community in particular, the plant is beyond its design life, and there's only one operator, and that operator runs a level 3 water plant. They run a level 2 water plant and a collection system, distribution system. So that operator, unfortunately, has a lot of challenges with that. And that's why programs like this are really important. They're looking at upgrading their system, which needs to be done, but that takes a long time. The wheels of new projects generally takes at least a decade.
Okay.
So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, no, it does. Thank you. I mean, it is so complicated, right? So it's good to have that kind of understanding. We've had some questions around just like in terms of water first and overhead, and it's one of those things. So I just thought, let me answer that for everybody. If you're looking at admin costs, our admin costs here at Water First average around 4%. And our fundraising is around 7%. And then actually, if you go to our website on the main homepage, you'll see a chart and a breakdown of where our revenues go. So you'll see that drinking water, like our internship program, is just around 40% of our revenues. So that's when donors choose to support the program, as well as those that provide us with unrestricted dollars, and we can allocate it based on the program and needs that we have. I guess it's a question maybe for a few people, but I'll pose it there and I'll say, one of our donors has asked around, so retaining after the graduation and retaining individuals in the field of water science within communities. And I don't know, John, who would like to take on that one first, and maybe if you can share your perspectives.
I'd be happy to get us started, and it would be great to hear from others as well. From what we see as a whole, I was referring to this in my presentation earlier, that the supply demand as a whole tends to lead to the graduates of the program being snapped up by the communities or neighboring communities or tribal council and so on. And so many of the graduates did indeed have work lined up even prior to graduating. You know, but that's not to say that every time it's a home run and so on. But I think one of the wonderful things about training and education as a program and as, you know, the basis of a program is that it is, you know, quite self-sustaining in that we, you know, as practitioners, we don't have to keep pumping the tires of a program, you know, in the long term, because at the end of the day, you know, having those certifications, having that knowledge and experience, no one can take that away from the individuals. And they, you know, are then in a field, as Polly is suggesting, there are, you know, there are companies reaching out, there are communities reaching out, and regional organizations and so on. So there, we see the ultimate employability of the interns being quite stable after, whether it's the home community or moving on to other areas. The employability is super strong.
Great. And Jonas, maybe if you can share from your perspective, like you'll be graduating in April, and what are your hopes for the rest of the program and afterwards?
I hope to continue with this field of work, actually, like make a career out of this, because it does provide wealth for the family and it provides a good thing for my community. And I am proud to do both of that, actually. And I hope to learn more about environmental science and stuff and actually go deeper into that knowledge rather than just skim the surface of it. And yeah, that's my main hope of this, what I hope to do after the internship.
No, perfect, thank you. And Eric, I guess, you know, a few years after the program, what are your thoughts and especially during COVID and being an essential worker at this time? Just love to hear your perspective of, you know, a few years after a program and where life is for you.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I was lucky enough to be working in my home community. And I was really wanting to continue working there, but it was only a one-year contract. So I had to start looking elsewhere for water operator positions, which led me to where I am today. But yeah, I do plan to stay in the water field. Like I still want to maintain this career going forward. Like I don't have like the set like 10-year plan or anything, but eventually I would like to return to my First Nation once I garner experience in the distribution system. Because when I was back in my own community, I mainly was working in the water treatment plant, so I didn't have too much experience on the distribution side of things. So that was one of my main goals was gaining that experience, which I am doing right now. But yeah, being an essential worker during COVID is definitely stressful, but it's also very rewarding. Like to know providing essential service to everyone, making sure they have access to water, and it's been interesting. Like for the most part, I wasn't affected by it. Like the way the distribution team works is we have our vehicles, and like that's where I'm at right now. But yeah, we're pretty much like stationed out of our vehicles, and most of our stuff is digital anyways, so we don't have to really go into the office too much. But there is still challenges with COVID. Like we can't really have any like in-person training anymore, or like in-person meetings, like and like going to like conferences is like pretty much not possible anymore. And that was like one of my favorite parts of like the training was like networking with other communities and organizations. But yeah, it's been interesting so far.
Thanks, Eric. John, a question for you we've had from one of our donors is around supports from government, and how have we received government support for the internship program and the next internship program?
Okay, thank you. The government has been very supportive of the program. It's been fantastic. The pilot was supported largely through government support with Employment and Social Development Canada. The implementation of the BMOSE project as well was supported by Indigenous Services Canada. And you know, these are sort of, I would say, primary dollars, but by no means, you know, all of the resources required from Water First in order to implement. So, you know, the government has been very supportive of the initiative. The challenge has been that, you know, at times there are some delays. And like I said, the program did sit on a shelf for 18 months, which was super challenging, you know, for everyone involved. So it's not, you know, it's not as I don't know, smooth as it could be in some ways. Eric mentioned that there was a time, you know, just through federal fiscal years and how it can work at times, that the interns really didn't know if they had a job next week. But we were only, I think at that time, you know, 2/3 of the way through the program, and there was still so much left to do together. And so there, you know, that's the nature of it at times. But you know, from our perspective, there will always be a seat for government at the table. And at the same time, we really feel through the support of Canadians and through the donors that have been so clear about their enthusiasm and support for what we do, that we're seeing that the Wabnun Bemjiwang partnership come together largely through donor support, and not because a government grant was approved, but because the donors care so much about the work that we do, and we're able to go out and do it because we're ready, the partner First Nations are ready, the Anishinaabe Nation is ready, and it's a real amazing situation to be there. So there'll always be a seat for government at the table, and at the same time, we want to be able to move forward as quickly and as urgently as we can, and it's our donors that are really allowing us to do that for the third internship.
Wonderful, thanks. And I guess one final question for Eric and Jonas is just your advice for the next set of interns that'll be joining us next year.
Did you want to start, Jonas, or you want me to start?
Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so advice I have for the next intern group that's going to be participating in the internship is yeah, just absorb as much as you can, like, and be aware of, like, not only just like the actual science, like the science part is important, but also the developing connections and the traditional aspect, which was part of the program, and it's really integral to the program. And it's actually led me to being, like, I grew up around traditional ceremony, and it actually led me back to where I was. And so I wanted to say, like, just yeah, soak it all up, from like the traditional side of things to the science side of things to just the fact of fostering those relationships with your interns, fellow interns, and the Water First team and the rest of the partners.
Thank you, Eric. And Jonas?
I think one good thing is like finding the balance between tradition and science, like Eric was mentioning, because both go hand in hand with water. Like tradition, you respect the water, and you know, you understand it provides life, but with the science behind it, you're actually providing life to the water, if that makes sense. And some good advice would be like just to stick with the program and actually like, commit to it, and it eventually becomes your life, and like you get really good at it and you become absorbed by it eventually, and if you commit to it, you know. And yeah, that's the best advice, is just straight up commit to it.
Well, thank you. And, you know, thank you for everyone's commitment to clean water, to the program that we're doing together. We really appreciate it. We could keep going, but we're near the end of our program today. So I just wanted to say thank you to our panelists, John, Mike, Eric, Polly. Thank you so much, Jonas. We truly appreciate your time and your willingness to share your unique perspectives, your personal stories about the impact of the work that we're doing together and the real needs that the internship addresses, and where we're going and where we're heading for the future. A big thank you to Greg Allen. You don't see him, he's behind the scenes. He's here at Water First and he's handling all of our tech today. And to Cody Avery, many of you know him for his support for the event as well. And thank you to our guests. I'm so glad that you could join us today. I would honestly love to hear from you. So at the end of our event, we're putting up a slide and my contact details are there. And I'd love to keep the conversation going. So please do reach out. Our work really is only truly possible because of the passionate supporters who care so much about clean water and about solutions and working together to find something that will address critical challenges. So I hope you will continue to support Water First, be part of that solution, help share our information with others who may be interested as well. Again, reach out if you have any questions, but thank you again for your time today and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks so much. Good afternoon.